Hi everyone, it's Ashley with Relaxing Creations Company. Today we're going to be making my pumpkin soap, and what I'm doing here is using the heat transfer method. So I have all of my solid oils in the bowl there, and I'm pouring in my hot lye solution. The benefits of doing this is you don't have to wait for everything to be to room temperature. It kind of speeds up time. And I'm just kind of doing some short video lapses here to show you, the stages of it melting those solid oils. This will take several minutes. Okay, now that everything is all smooth, in goes the liquid oils. These are the oils that are already at room temperature. And when I'm going to be working with different layers, I like to hand mix in my oils just to their light, a light saponification. That way it's not going to speed up trace, and I have a lot more time to work with it. So I have some of it poured into two different batches here. This will be a 3-layer soap, so this will be our first layer we're working with. All the colors that I'm using today are from Nuture Soap. And in goes our pumpkin fragrance oil. I believe this one is also from Nuture Soap. Now this will discolor to I believe it said a dark brown. So I'm trying to pick my colors and my design based on allowing that to discolor. So we burp our stick blender, and then I find out that I did not have it plugged in, so I gotta balance that. Hopefully it doesn't fall over, and get this plugged in. And I have it like speeding up the process here a little bit to try to make the video a little shorter. I want to get this mixed up enough that it's to a nice trace, but still thin enough that it's going to allow me to pour a nice smooth line. And I always scrape the sides after, hitting it with the stick blender just to make sure everything is incorporated. The key here is to get your oils, or your batter, I guess at this point, mixed up well enough that it's going to harden fast enough in the container, but also, like I said, that I wanted to get that smooth line. So I think I accomplished that here, at least for the most part. In goes a mica line with I believe it was the shimmer gold. I just showed it there on the screen. And this is just a basic tea strainer. It works great for just sprinkling a nice thin layer. You've got to watch. You don't want to get your mica line too thick, because then it will separate when you go to cut your soap later. So if you do a mica line, make sure it's spread evenly and it's a thinner line. And mica lines are messy, so this mica just flies everywhere. So in between the layers, I do clean off the side of the mold there. So I put the lid on the mold so that can speed up and try to harden while I'm working on my next layer. I love blending the colors in. Watching the soap come to life. In goes the fragrance oil. heating it up again. I pull the blender out from time to time just to see where the soap is laying on the shaft there. That kind of tells you how incorporated and how well blended it is. Remember, if it was just hand mixed up till this point, so if I would have poured it before, it would have separated and it would have not have made good soap if it even would have hardened at all. Scraping the sides, make sure everything is nice and incorporated. Bring our mold back in. Now this has had time to sit up, so that bottom layer is solid enough to pour. I'm still going to use my spatula here to break the fall so it doesn't go through. And you want to scrape all of the batter out of the container. And then I'm trying to make sure that this layer is as even as possible, not slanted. We tap it to get all the air bubbles out as much as we can. And then I'm going to go in with another gold mica line. Gold is always my go-to color for mica lines for some reason. I think it goes with pretty much everything. And this was the leftover batter that I did not split off. I'm going to mix it up again because I'm sure it's settled at this point because this one was just set off to the side. And I love this bright orange color. Unfortunately, like I said, this fragrance will discolor. So this is going to turn to a pretty dark orange, which is why I went with the bright orange to begin with. Trying to help it along as much as possible, trying to keep as much color as I can by picking one of the, I believe this was the Eye of the Tiger neon from Nuture Soap. And the last bit of fragrance oil is going in. Always burp your stick blender first, make sure there's no air pockets in there. And then I don't have enough batter left in my container to have it flat, so I just tilt it a little bit, make sure everything can get blended in without incorporating, a lot of air bubbles. Now this layer I don't have to worry about as much getting a smooth layer since I'm going to be detailing the top, but I still, I want to make sure that it's, pourable. And at this point, the rest of what's in the mold there should be set up. Putting the lid over it helps it stay warm, which helps it set up a little bit faster. So if you're pouring different layers, it's best to cover it in between each layer as you're working on the next batch. It's very difficult to get a handle on that big container and pour, but again, you want to use that spatula to break the fall. Even though it's set up enough, If you were just to pour that in, you're probably going to break through it. So always use a spatula or something to break your fall. If you see, this one is a little bit thicker, but that's okay because I'm going to be doing a little bit of a textured top, so that's okay. It was still smooth enough that it could be poured in evenly. And I let it set up just for a few minutes off camera, and now I'm just going in and texturing the top up. Okay, there we have our pumpkin. I will be covering this, and then I unmolded it, and I believe it was the next day I cut it, but then I let it set for another day or two. Look how much that's discolored already. You can actually see the line around the edge there as it's still discoloring. I'll show you that here in a minute when I actually cut a piece. It's easier to see. So my end goal here is just to make sure that the top hopefully stays just a slightly more of an orange color than that bottom copper brown. And I had my mold set there for my sample pieces, so I wanted to make sure I moved it over to our full-size bars. I have little markings there on the mold. You see the discoloring line? This was one big chunk. Remember, I split this. It was off camera, but I split this into 2 loaves. That's why the outside is already discolored, but that inside portion was actually the inside of the full mold. But those mica lines and the soap pores are all nice and smooth, so I really like how that turned out. You can see all the rough little edging there on the bars as I hold it up. That is from the guitar strings that's used to cut the soap with the cutters. Those will be planed off. I don't plane those off of my sample bars because there's nothing wrong with it, but I want to keep my sample packs, those bars, as big as possible so you're getting the most bang for your dollar there. So I don't plane them off of that, but the full-size bars I will plane it so they're nice and smooth. And coming in with the second half. You can cut your soap, I mean, depending on your recipe, but most recipes you can cut your soap within 18 to 24 hours. That's typically what I do. I do find though if it sits for an additional day or two, it's a smoother cut. You're not getting as much of the tackiness as you get. But again, I plane my soaps so I don't worry about that because it all planes smooth in the end. But this soap had sat for a few days before I cut it, so it's cutting very nicely for me. And now I'm adjusting my cutter to go to the sample sizes. Our sample size packs the bars run about half the size, so you're still going to get a bar that's going to last you a couple weeks. That's definitely great during the holiday season if you want to put them into, say, the guest bathrooms, things like that. Or if you're just like me and you want to switch fragrances out to try to get, as many of those lovely scents in as possible during the holiday season. the sample packs might be your go-to. So this is the first time I'm doing the sample packs, so hopefully you guys like those. I'll be putting samples together, about 4 to 5 together in a pack. So I'll do all of my fall, autumn, scents that I'm doing in one sample pack. I love the way those mica lines turned out. And here I am just showing you the size difference. So you can see the sample bars are still very thick, but they're about half the size of my normal bar. And here is our finished product. Thank you everybody for watching.